morning, everyone. We're really happy to see all of you here today, and I thank you for coming. We have a really packed agenda, and so without saying anything more, I would like to introduce you to someone you already know, Mr. McKay.
Thank you very much, Joyce, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're delighted to see you here today and welcome our online viewers. This is the first ever live streamed press conference for the Santa Fe Opera, and we're very glad that you're with us. For those of you who are joining us online, you can't see where we are at this very moment. We're backstage in the distinctly unglamorous auxiliary dressing room for the Santa Fe Opera. And in the course of the press conference, you'll discover why. And as we begin, I'd like to recognize the mayor of Santa Fe, Javier Gonzalez, who will say a few words later on. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Happy to have you with us. Today we have several important announcements. And first, I'd like to give a brief report on how things are going at the Santa Fe Opera, since there's lately been some disquieting news about the world of opera. Companies which have been suspending operations, trimming their seasons, cutting back on the number of performances and productions, or eliminating or reducing their training and education programs. So here from the high mesa outside Santa Fe, New Mexico, we are pleased to share very good news. Ticket sales are tracking almost exactly with last year's numbers. Some days we're a little ahead, some days we're a little behind. But you may or may not know that last year's ticket sales of nearly $8.9 million were the highest in the company's history. Paid admissions last year reached more than 90% of capacity, showing steady growth in the last several years. Fundraising this year is also right on track. And like last year's ticket sales, our 2013 contributed income was the highest in the company's history. We expect to continue our long-standing record of balanced budgets this year and in the years ahead, thanks to the help of our many generous friends. Now, on to the 2015 season, when we will be doing 5 new productions again and introducing 3 works which are new to our repertory, including an important world premiere, and bringing back 2 masterworks which are among the greatest and most popular operas ever written. The season spans 4 centuries and features a wonderful and very accomplished group of artists, both returning favorites and artists new to our company. The Santa Fe Opera's 59th season opens with The Daughter of the Regiment, Donizetti's sparkling romantic comedy from the bel canto era, which amazingly has never been performed at the Santa Fe Opera. It features many of the same artists who created our memorable and hilarious production of The Last Savage a few years ago, director Ned Canty, designer Alan Moyer, and choreographer Sean Curran, plus the glorious Speranza Scapucci, who will be making her debut as conductor. We have a wonderful cast led by Anna Christie, Phyllis Pansella, Alex Schrader, and Kevin Burdett. It's going to be great fun. Next, we'll be bringing back Verdi's great opera Rigoletto, which hasn't been performed here in 15 years. It's one on the top 10 list in almost every list you can find, and has some of the most familiar and well-loved music in all of opera. 3 young Americans head the cast: Quinn Kelsey making his Santa Fe Opera debut in the title role, Georgia Jarman, a former apprentice, as Gilda, and the acclaimed tenor Brian Email returning to us as the Duke of Mantua. The production will be directed by Lee Blakely, who is remembered for his beautiful productions of The Pearl Fishers and Madame Butterfly in past years. And leading our performances will be the rising young Italian conductor Jader Bignamini, who will be making his American debut. Now, I think many of you know that Richard Strauss was the composer most loved by our founding genius, John Crosby. Strauss returns next season. I know many people will be happy about that, as am I, with a new production of Salome, conducted by David Robertson, the celebrated music director of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, returning after his triumphant 2011 debut in Wozzeck. He'll be reunited with stage director Daniel Slater, leading a wonderful cast headed by the noted soprano Alex Penda, who will be our Leonora in Fidelio this year. Next, we present another first for the company, La Finta Giardiniera, which translates as the false gardeneress. So I think we'll be sticking with the Italian. Finta, as we call it, is a delicious comedy written by Mozart when he was only 18 years old, and is sometimes said to be his most underappreciated opera. The production pairs our esteemed chief conductor, Harry Bickett, with noted director Tim Albury, and a simply wonderful ensemble cast with returning favorites Susanna Phillips, Bill Burden, Heidi Stobert, Josh Hopkins, and introducing Cecilia Hall and Spanish-born tenor Joel Prieto. We complete the 2015 repertory with the much-anticipated world premiere of Cold Mountain, with music by Pulitzer Prize-winning composer Jennifer Higdon. And we are thrilled to present her first opera, a work which is based on the best-selling novel of the same title by Charles Fraser, with a libretto by Jean Shear. The story, a romantic tragedy in the best operatic tradition, is said by some to be a retelling of Homer's Odyssey. It takes place during the Civil War and will strike many resonant chords. 2015 marks the 150th anniversary of the end of the Civil War, and as we in New Mexico know, the westernmost battle of the Civil War was fought just outside Santa Fe at Glorieta Pass. Cold Mountain is a co-commission and co-production with Opera Philadelphia and Minnesota Opera, and will be presented in collaboration with the Civil War Trust. The alluring cast includes star baritone Nathan Gunn, returning along with Isabel Leonard, Jay Hunter Morris, and Emily Fons. The director is Leonard Foglia, known for his outstanding work in theater and opera, and our conductor will be the acclaimed Peruvian maestro, Miguel Harth Bedoya. So there you have it, 2015, in a nutshell, a lineup with Verdi, Mozart, Strauss, Donizetti, and Higdon, all with the fantastic Santa Fe Opera Orchestra and an incredible lineup of artists. There are many other details of the season, of course, and for those of you in the room, you have the press releases in your packet, and for those of you viewing us online, the press releases will be posted on our website later on today. Now, the other big news relates to this amazing facility, which is so much a part of the continuing success of the Santa Fe Opera. From here, we cannot see the spectacular sweeping views of the mountains and the mesas, the beautiful New Mexico blue sky, and it's a little early in the day for sunsets or rainbows, but we know these are all the trademarks of the Santa Fe Opera experience. Instead, we look around and we see a rather run-down utilitarian dressing room and storage area. Most of our patrons and artists don't realize that the backstage area, the entire backstage area, dates from 1968, when the theater was rebuilt after the fire which destroyed the original space, the original structure, in 1967. And so it's going on 50 years old and is definitely in need of some attention. In 2012, we conducted a survey inviting patrons to comment on the experience and on the amenities in and around the theater. And while the overwhelming majority, I think 93%, said they were satisfied or very satisfied with the experience. The written comments revealed a high degree of frustration with basic facilities such as restrooms, concessions, and parking. For example, at intermission time, patrons said they had to make a choice between hydrating or dehydrating, since there wasn't time to do both because of the long lines at the restrooms and at the concessions. So, along with all the valuable survey comments, which really didn't come as a surprise, we've also been aware of deficiencies backstage. Look around. I invite you to do some snooping today and encourage our online viewers to take a backstage tour this summer. There's no question that we need to update the theater. For starters, our productions are much bigger and more complex than they were in the 1960s, and we seem to be doing more all-new productions, fewer revivals, and more co-productions, all of which strain the company's inadequate and outdated backstage facilities. Some of you have seen the excellent story by Ann Constable in Sunday's Santa Fe New Mexican, and today you will hear the very latest news on this major project, starting with words from our board president, Susan Morris. Susan.
Thank you, Charles. It's a real pleasure for me to speak about setting the stage, the Santa Fe Opera's campaign that is aimed at enhancing the patron and the artistic experience and facility. This effort started just over a year ago, has as its goal for us to raise $35 million from our board family and from friends. Once accomplished, $23 million of the monies raised will be spent on construction within the theater and this backstage. $8 million will be put into a building reserve fund that will provide upkeep and maintenance of these facilities in the future. And $4 million will be used to support main stage programming in the years to come. And how are we doing this thus far? Very well indeed. To date, we have raised $24.5 million of our $35 million goal. And quite remarkable. The usual rule of thumb is that when an organization goes public with a campaign, as we are doing today, you hope to have raised half of your goal. We're well above that. If my arithmetic were better, I could tell you exactly what percent we're at. And from whom have we raised this amount? We have commitments from 100% of our current 41-member board. Some gifts now in hand, and some pledged over a period of just a few years. In addition, we have gifts from 23 others, some former directors of the company, some from our wonderful staff, and some from other close friends of the opera. This leaves us with the need to raise $10,500,000. I have no doubt of our success. This extraordinary opera company always has had, and always will win the enthusiastic support of all who care about our art form. Now I'd like to introduce Paul Horpedahl, the Santa Fe Opera's multi-talented director of production and facilities. He will provide to all of us an overview of the work to be accomplished through this important, meaningful campaign. Thank you.
Good morning. This is an amazing project, and I'm so excited to be able to share it with you. It's been an ongoing development already for about 20 months. Our staff has been working with a terrific team of consultants and an architect. Some of them are here today. We have our architect Juan Matisse joining us today for this kickoff. He's with Matisse Architect and Design out of Manhattan. All of our other consultants are local based. There's Ann Quarles is here from M&E Engineering. They're our electrical and mechanical engineering firm. Design Ingenuity is here. Orlin Ortiz Gutierrez. I hope I did that right. We have Hands Engineering is our structural group, also here in Santa Fe. And then we're using our a great pair of consultants, Brett and Mike Harris of Harris Consultants. They've worked with us on a number of projects here in the past, and they are going to help us get through this multi-phase project as well. So we're really glad that they could be here, and I'm excited to work with them as we move forward. This first slide that I have here for you today is a model of the full theater campus. You can see the fan shape of the theater here, and on the far side is the what we're calling Area A. It's the box office and opera shop buildings. Area B is the opera club. Area C on this side is the scene shop and the prop shop paint area. And Area D is where we're sitting today, and that's the costume shop and the dressing room wing. If you see, there's little boxes added to all of these to just give you an idea of how much we're growing all of these spaces. All in all, we are going from about 36,000 square feet in these four areas to a little over 64,000 square feet of workspace. We're also, as Charles was saying about restrooms, we're going to enlarge the restroom capacity for patrons by 50%. So we're trying to expand everything we can, every direction we can, and still keep the space looking very similar to the way it does today. This next slide is an artist rendering of the entry plaza. Currently, we have the canopy over here by the box office. It's on the right side of the frame, and that's where we all get dropped off and pick up our tickets. Now we will be expanding out to the left side of that. We're adding an eating terrace over here that'll seat 40 to 50 people for pre-show meals. And then for those of you who pre-order box dinners for tailgating, there'll be a kiosk kind of a building right here adjacent to that where you can go and pick up your dinner. If you forgot to order dinner, you can still get a little something there and sit down on that terrace or go back to your car in the parking lot. The box office itself and the opera shop are going to see lots of efficiencies by enlarging them. The box office will become larger and get the full complement of staff into one space. The opera shop itself will move across to that same building, and it'll be a much larger space. It'll incorporate storage and their administrative work. And then in the current opera shop building, again, the restrooms will be enlarged. A new larger bar will be added into that building, and a new press space will be moved over to that side of the plaza. This will be the new patron lounge, the Opera Club. Immediately you can see that we've made it much taller. This will have a third floor on it that will accommodate more square footage for entertaining patrons. But we also take advantage of the views from up there. This will have views not only to the west with our sunsets that we all enjoy, but also to the north, looking up the valley, and to the east, looking across the Tesuque Valley. And that'll be great to finally be able to incorporate that view. Also, the additional height will help us with blocking highway noise, mitigating some of the noise that comes in from the highway from that side of the theater. There will be a bridge that goes across to the mezzanine level of the theater so that patrons can move easily between those two structures. And in the core of this is an elevator that will allow patrons to go from the entry plaza down to Stravinsky or up to the mezzanine level of the theater. Finally, again, restrooms. This becomes a men's room space here, which will be really great. There currently isn't a men's room space in that location. And then there'll be a ladies' room around the corner that'll have twice the space that it has now. This is a diagram of what we're doing to Area C. One of the big things that we're adding in here is a paint space. You may not realize it, but we don't have a dedicated space for assembling scenery and painting it. We sort of do a little bit in the basement and some on the back deck, some on the stage. But by pushing this building out This yellow area here, area 2, becomes a paint space where we can assemble a full set and paint it inside under controlled conditions. That'll be a huge plus for us. And then the scene shop moves out into the parking lot, and it becomes a much easier space to work with as it has no columns inside of it. So we'll be able to, again, assemble a full set inside of there. The prop shop will gain a furniture space and a remodeled paint area that will incorporate all the latest technology for exhausting fumes and that sort of thing. And finally, we'll be pulling together a lot of spaces that are right now spread apart across the whole facility. For instance, all of the lighting department will come together in one location. All the audio-video departments will come together in one location. Stage management will have better facilities, etc. In the building that we're in now, this is the floor plan for the dressing room areas. One of the things that we have at the Santa Fe Opera is sort of a gang dressing room for principals and a gang dressing room for the different choruses. And we're maintaining that to help maintain the ensemble atmosphere that that creates, but we are going to get rid of a few things like gang showers. We're just going to move forward and admit that people should have a little bit of privacy. So this is the ladies and men's principals. You'll see what these spaces look like currently as you leave the room today. Men's chorus will be along this side. This is an all-new add-on to the building, and this is an add-on to the building. And women's chorus is here. Both of those spaces also will incorporate extra space for supernumeraries and dancers so that we don't have to pack them into rooms like we're in now. This often becomes a supernumerary space. This also becomes a dancer space, as well as all the wardrobe maintenance goes on in this room. So you can see we're going to dress it up considerably. This whole side here is all going to be wardrobe maintenance and storage of the costumes, so we don't have to keep moving them up and down stairs between performances. New conductor's room here that'll be large enough for a piano, and so you can do notes before the show and intermission. Then we move downstairs. Again, with this push out of the building, we expand the work area for the costume shop. We hope that that gives us nice clear paths for rolling materials around and transporting racks of costumes to the different teams. Lots of storage here for accessories and fabric, so we don't have to store those things out in the hallways and in other not so good places. We've doubled our capacity for fitting rooms. We've gone from 2 to 4, and we've created spaces for costume designers to work on. And then we have moved the wig shop closer to those fitting rooms so there's better access for the fittings. We've taken things like laundry and dyeing and those kinds of projects, and we've moved them to the outside wall so that we can more easily ventilate and exhaust the fumes from those spaces. And then we have a millinery and craft shop here. So that's a quick overview. This is a multi-phase project. We plan on breaking ground this fall with areas A and D. So when we all assemble next year, hopefully you'll be able to walk around and see the new costume shops, the new dressing rooms, the new entry plaza, the eating plaza out front. All of that should be done. We plan on doing all of these amendments to the property in the winter months so we don't have to interrupt any of our operation in the summer. The following year we'll do the patron lounge, the opera club, and the scene shop and paint shop areas. And then beyond that, we have plans on redoing the patron parking lot, roadways, additional storage on campus. So in 3 more years, hopefully this will all be wrapped up. Very excited, and thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that great tour of the new and improved facilities at the Santa Fe Opera, and thanks to Susan for the overview of our fundraising effort thus far. As you can see, this is a really huge project for the Santa Fe Opera, and one that has already taken years of planning and will require 3 or 4 years to complete, as Paul has mentioned. And one thing that I wanted to mention, in addition to everything that Paul said, was that we're striving to make the whole backstage area more energy efficient with the new plan. And again, to assure you, as Paul did just a moment ago, that the seasons will be uninterrupted and that the experience of coming to the Santa Fe Opera will only get better in the years ahead. So I'd like to thank some of the people who've worked so hard in bringing this project to fruition thus far. Obviously, of course, Susan and Paul, but also Chuck Moore, who is the co-chair of our campaign, Robert Maya, who is the Director of External Affairs for the Opera, our Infrastructure Chairman, Rich Higgins, and our Director of Finance, Heather Kemp. Thank you all for your invaluable efforts, and most especially, many, many thanks to those of you who have contributed so generously thus far. Next, I'm going to ask Mayor Gonzalez to say a few words. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody, and let me just, share some personal experience sitting here. Being mayor of Santa Fe comes with so many privileges, but none more than being able to sit here on a morning like this, as beautiful as it is outside, and see the growth of an incredible institution in our community. And so I want to congratulate the Board of the Opera and Charles for taking this extraordinary step to enhance the vitality of this incredible institution. I also need to thank the board on behalf of the citizens of Santa Fe for taking one of our own in Charles, who was born and raised in Santa Fe and now leads this world-class institution. He has set the mark for any young person in our community who aspires to lead a global company such as the Santa Fe Opera, to do it, to know that they can do it, to start and to never lose sight of where they can end up. And so on behalf of all Santa Feans, we're so proud of our very own who's leading this incredible effort. Needless to say, a $23 million construction project is critical to the economy of Santa Fe. And I want to assure the Opera Board that we will do everything that we possibly need to do to make sure that that is a success. I also want to say how important it is to me as a mayor to know that we have such a well-governed, well-managed opera. We all know across this country that many cities are faced with enormous challenges when it comes to supporting their arts and cultures. And it's very sad to see opera houses around the country that are either losing their way or they're closing up. Not in Santa Fe. In Santa Fe, we have a very strong, vibrant company, and certainly one that I know will be a part of our community for many, many years into the future. And that's a testament to the governance and the leadership and the quality of people that work to support the Santa Fe Opera. And I want to say thank you for your continued commitment in that area. We all know the benefits of opera to our community. As a Santa Fe, and for me personally, it enhances my own quality of life. We know as Santa Feans that to be exposed to something like the opera on a yearly basis, especially for our children, allows us to have an incredible life here in Santa Fe, and I certainly am very proud of that. And so in closing, I want to congratulate the Santa Fe Opera, Charles, and others who have made this a reality. I want to let you all know how much I'm personally looking forward to the upcoming summer. And for those who are watching online, if you're planning on coming to Santa Fe this summer and you've already made your reservations, I can't wait to see you. If you come with your credit cards and spend lots of money. If you're watching online and you haven't made a decision and you haven't been to this opera, it's worth your time. It's worth your effort to bring your friends and your family out to a historic city and see an incredible opera, and we're looking forward to seeing you as well. So with that, thank you all very much, and I look forward to the continued presence of the Santa Fe Opera in Santa Fe.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Mayor Gonzalez, for those kind and generous words. And we wish you much success in your tenure as mayor of Santa Fe, and have no doubt that it will be hugely beneficial to the citizens of our community. I want to mention here that Mayor Gonzalez will be the celebrity judge for our opening night tailgating contest. That will take place on June 27th before the opening night of Carmen, and we know that that's going to be great fun, and thank you very, very much. And finally, I'd like to turn to Sue Marino, who is the president-elect of the Board of Directors of the Opera, who has a few words to share. Sue.
Thank you, Charles. It is a privilege to stand here today and add my thanks to the many generous donors who are already pledged to contribute to this incredible enterprise. And I also want to take a moment and thank everyone who will, in the next few years, join us in supporting this wonderful work. As Paul has described the details of this project, the work will not merely update the facilities at this opera, it will truly transform the facilities at this opera. The campaign gifts are our legacy to future generations of audiences and artists who will be able to come to Santa Fe and enjoy, as we all have been able to enjoy, a premier summer opera festival in this incredible landscape we call home. I want to just conclude by saying thank you to everyone who joins us in this very important work. Charles, do you have some comments? Thanks.
Thank you, Sue, for those inspiring words. And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the online streaming portion of our press conference. And we look forward to seeing all of our viewers this summer in Santa Fe. Thank you very, very much. We have a few brief updates and announcements about the 2014 season. First, starting with co-productions. I think you know that for many years, the Santa Fe Opera has rented its productions to other opera companies, and that has certainly been an important source of revenue for us. But more recently, we've gotten into the business of co-producing. And this means that we entice other opera companies to join with us in sharing the costs of constructing the scenery and the costumes, and to creating the staging of the productions. And this is obviously an important source of revenue, and the good part of it is that it brings in those funds up front instead of after the fact. And this season, we're very pleased to announce 3 co-productions, 2 for our production of Don Pasquale, the second production in our lineup this season. We're thrilled to have the Gran Liceu in Barcelona, Spain, joining us, and also we have the great San Francisco Opera joining us as a partner on this production. In addition, we have a co-production for Dr. Sun Yat-sen, our American premiere by Huang Ruo, which will be with Vancouver Opera in Canada. And obviously, in times when budgets are tighter, it just makes huge sense for us to share resources. And the great thing for the Santa Fe Opera is that this extends our brand into other markets, if you will. You all know that our apprentice programs for singers and technicians are the very finest in the world. And the Apprentice Singers Program is the first of its kind in the U.S. These provide training and advanced study for young professionals entering careers in opera and the allied art forms. And this year, we have some exciting announcements. There's a release in your packet about the guest teachers. We have an illustrious lineup this year, including some Metropolitan Opera stars, Neil Shikoff and James Morris, both of whom are former Santa Fe Opera apprentices. And Isabel Leonard returns this summer to give master classes, along with the great director of the Metropolitan Opera Chorus, Donald Palumbo. This summer, we also will welcome 4 new players for our fantastic orchestra, and they are mentioned too in the 2014 update release. And of course, we have a wide array of educational and family programs this summer, films, symposia, lectures, concerts, and a mini festival of short family operas taking place here in June on the campus down at O'Shaughnessy Hall. Today, I'm very happy to unveil, even though they've been on view for the entire press conference, the 2014 posters by internationally known artist Dan Naminga, who is a Santa Fe resident and who is a member of the board of the Santa Fe Opera. 2 beautiful images of the official poster for the season and the so-called festival poster, the more abstract image, which will be the program cover for us. So thank you very much, Dan Naminga. Delighted that you are here today, and we appreciate your many contributions to the opera. By the way, yes, thank you. And by the way, the posters are available this summer, of course, in our gift shop and also at Niemann Gallery downtown. I should ask at this point of my colleague, Brad Woolbright, who is the Director of Artistic Administration, if there are any cancellations or cast changes that I need to announce today. No, okay, good. Well, it's probably still a little bit early for that since it's, you know, we still have 52 days until opening night. And speaking of opening night, I just wanted to acknowledge our opening night sponsors once again. We are thrilled to have them sponsoring the 5 opening night performances. The Four Seasons, Rancho Encantado Santa Fe. We're very, very grateful for your continued support. I think that's all, and so this will be the end of the press conference, but first I do want to introduce Daniel Zillman, who is our new Director of Press and Public Relations at the Opera, now in his 7th day with the company. Daniel. Daniel, we wish you very, very well, and most especially, we express our heartfelt thanks to Joyce Idema, who's been such a wonderful member of this organization for the last 15 years. We can never thank you enough for your elegant and effective leadership as the Press and Public Relations Director. Thank you, Joyce.
We have a short video here of the principals, singers, and creative team for Cold Mountain. We've been very fortunate to have 2 workshops at the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia, and with all of the creative people who are going to be here in Santa Fe next summer. And we thought you might like to hear what they had to say about the production.
Well, one first impression is just that you write a book, sit at home for 8 years or something like that, with these things in your head, and never imagine that anybody will read the book, much less that you then, 15 years later, 16 years later, whatever it is, come in and listen to these beautiful voices and this beautiful music with your characters and your story. It's a very overwhelming kind of feeling. It's a very emotional feeling.
Looking for a first subject for an opera, this book for me is perfect, having grown up not too far, as 60 miles as the crow flies, actually, from Cold Mountain, so I recognize the speech patterns and the way people talk, and also just the characters. I knew I was in a safe place because I knew I'd found home, and that was the most important thing for writing.
Jennifer and I have been looking for subjects, and we've been talking about all different things. And one day we were on the phone, and I said, "Hey, how about Cold Mountain?" And boom, she said, "I've I think we have something. And I knew that Jennifer grew up in Tennessee, and as it turns out, not too far from, you guys hiked a lot of the same trails, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, we start with immersing ourselves in Charles's book. You know, Gene starts creating the libretto, and we start talking about how it can be an alive theatrical experience. And then Jennifer adds her genius with the music. The next step in that developmental process, which is so exciting, is then you start looking toward what is this going to look like? What is the design going to be? What is it all going to feel as it goes from a page? You know, as it just lifts off the page with the singing, and then it starts going into 3 dimensions, and hopefully, and I believe it is, being true to the spirit of the book, but then coming alive. I think to me, it must be thrilling, you know, to have a story that has inspired so many incarnations and continues to inspire.
My assistant gave me a message, you know, saying, Jennifer Higdon called. She wants to speak to you. And I said, Jennifer Higdon? Why is she calling me? I'd be thrilled to talk to her, but I can't speak to her now. So a few days later, I did get through to her, and she said, I want to talk to you about my new opera. I want to write an opera, and everyone says Santa Fe Opera would be the perfect place for it to be premiered. Definitely. And I said, you know, sounds great. What is the subject? And she told me Cold Mountain. And I said, that is one of my favorite novels, and sounds very good. So we made a date to get together in New York. So I said, I'll be there next week, but I have to make a stop in Chicago because I'm judging Met auditions there, and so I need just a couple of days. So I arrived in Chicago. I knew that one of my fellow judges was none other than Nathan, and so we were sitting around in the room, you know, waiting to adjudicate the auditions, and I said to Nathan, you know, we keep trying to get you back to Santa Fe, and nothing seems to be working out. So how are we going to do that? And you said...
I said, well, you know, it has been a while, but one of the things I love about Santa Fe is the long rehearsal process. You can actually really work in, you know, work up a new piece.
He said, well, what is the subject of the opera? And I said, Cold Mountain, and...
I love that novel, you know, and I'm like, well, is there a part in it for me? Well, it hasn't been written yet, right?
I looked at him, I said, you are Inman.
Yeah.
And so we shook hands on the deal,
yeah.
and went off to judge our auditions then. And a couple of days later, I met with Jennifer in New York, and I said, you won't believe this, but I think I've signed on Inman for our project. And she said, really? And we haven't even decided we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, we are doing it. Because Nathan Gunn says he would love to sing Inman in Cold Mountain. And that was the beginning. And from that point, we then went on to enlist Opera Company of Philadelphia as our partner. Right. And this has all been just an amazing series of steps leading on an extraordinary journey.
Cold Mountain, I think, is going to be the, you know, maybe the great American operatic work. I think it's an American, you know, a quintessentially American story about, much like Ulysses. It is the Ulysses story, but an American version of it. The music is beautiful. It's amazingly dramatic in scope.
You're in for a story. You're in for the drama and the theater and the relationships between each character and the language. And I think it's between Jennifer Higdon and Gene Shear and everyone else involved in this whole process, they've created a really human story. And it gave me goosebumps.
Kudos to Gene Shear, because these are two lovers who are never together. And the villain is never with his arch nemesis, Inman. They're never together, but somehow, and you can do that in a novel, it works pretty well, but to be able to turn this into a dramatic piece for the stage is incredibly difficult. And you know, it doesn't surprise me that Gene Shear was asked to do it. I mean, he did that with An American Tragedy, a very big book. Moby Dick, also a rather large novel.
I hear that's a large novel.
Yeah, you haven't read that? Shocking. Yeah, and to do it with this piece, Cold Mountain, is amazing. There are some dramatic moments that we can't really, I just don't want to give them away, but having read the libretto and
Just read the book.
I have heard some of your orchestral music and very excited to be at your mercy. It's good to be here. I read the book, a few years ago, and I know who this Teague fella is.
Yeah.
I think I've probably got some kinfolk down the line that. So I think in the recesses of my spirit, I'm going to be able to. I'm going to be able to pull the nastiness out, and hopefully.
Looking at him, you would not guess there was nastiness in there at all.
Yeah, I keep it buried most of the time. But you know what? It's so exciting. You have such a singular voice.
You know what? That was just one of the things when I was writing it. Every time I had to write a scene with Teague in it, I find the actions of this man kind of irritating to think about. I get ticked off. I go through the emotions. So I thought, how am I going to write an aria for Teague? So what I did was I used the thought of you kind of as the antidote.
Okay.
I thought I knew he was going to be singing it, so I thought to myself, here's a good person who's going to play a bad person, but I focused just on your personality, which you are legendary for being such a great person to work with.
Oh, really?
So that actually helped me, believe it or not. It's a pretty amazing experience. There's nothing better for a composer than knowing that you're going to be writing for the best artists around. It allows you to daydream and think big, and you can bring more to the audience, I think. But it's my favorite part of my job.
Bring it on.
Yes,
Bring
absolutely.
it on. Let me tell you something. You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but I've had a pretty good year. Things have, I've had so much fun. But, you know, in 20 years of trying to sing opera, the greatest moments for me are getting to sing new music. I've got to be in a few new operas over the course of the years, and I love stepping into a guy for the first time and stepping into that voice for the first time. So I'm tickled to death, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
You're
Thank
making
you.
the history of this character, and it's great.
Who's luckier than me? So good to be here. Thank you.
Maybe I'm lucky I get to work with you.